or vibrate. And if you intend to speak, if you would come to the podium, state your name and any organization that you represent. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. White?
Present.
Mr. Case?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Laybourne? Mr. Luna?
Here.
Mayor Orr?
Here.
Dr. Rennie?
Present.
Mr. Roybal?
Present.
Mr. Shaner?
Here.
All right.
2 members are absent. We do have a quorum.
Perfect. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consent agenda. All agenda items listed with the designation of CA are considered to be routine items by the governing body and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a member of the governing body so requests and support by 2 other members is received. Any item removed from the consent agenda will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda.
Thank you. Are there any items that any members wish to have removed from the consent agenda? Any items? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor? Okay. I guess I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Roybal, seconded by Mr. White. Jumping the gun. All right. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is number 6, vouchers.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Roybal.
I do have a conflict.
All right.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we need.
Do we go out to the public first? Yeah, we'll go out to the public first. Any discussion on the vouchers? Discussion from public on the vouchers. Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Case, seconded by President Rennie. Discussion by council?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Case.
I move to divide the question to allow for separate action on the voucher payable to the Wyoming Association of Municipalities in the amount of $46,155.88 for fiscal year 2019 WAM membership dues as a result of recent comments published by the media regarding the merits of the City of Cheyenne's membership status.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion by...
There's no discussion.
No discussion. There's no discussion on this. Okay, all those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. All right, we are now on the main motion as divided to act on the voucher payable to WAM. Is there discussion from council? Discussion from the public? Discussion from council?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Case.
Based on some recent information that the council received from your administration, as well as a host of questions that have been brought up, probably as a result of the article in this morning's paper, I move to postpone this voucher for 2 weeks.
Second.
Okay, motion to postpone for 2 weeks. It's been made by Mr. Case, seconded by Mr. Luna. Discussion by the public? Discussion by council? All right, hearing none. The motion to postpone for 2 weeks, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. We are now back on the main motion to approve payment of vouchers, excluding the voucher payable to the Wyoming Association of Municipalities. Councilman Roybal's declared conflict. Discussion by council on the rest of the vouchers. Further discussion by council. All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Welcome back, Mr. Roybal.
Ordinance second reading, repealing Section 9.12.080, electric fences prohibited, of Chapter 9.12, offenses against property, of Title IX, public peace and welfare of the Code of the City of Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Is there any discussion by the public on this matter? Discussion by the public. Hearing none. Mr. Roybal.
Madam Mayor, this item died for lack of a second, therefore there was no recommendation from the Public Services Committee. But for the sake of discussion, I would so move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Roybal, seconded by Mr. Luna. Discussion by council. Discussion by council?
Madam Mayor,
Mr.
I think that the reason that it died was because we couldn't come to kind of a conclusion on what we should and shouldn't take off of this. So what I'd like to do is just pass it this evening and then work on it for the next 2 weeks. We're only on second reading.
All right. Any other further discussion? Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No. No.
Motion passes with Mr. Shaner and Mr. Cook.
Next item is number 13A on page 4. Restaurant liquor license application filed with the City Clerk's Office for Central Cafe Limited Liability Company doing business as Central Cafe, 3920 Central Avenue, Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Madam Mayor,
President Rennie.
I would like to declare a conflict on this and will recuse myself.
Okay. All right. We'll let you leave the room. Okay, public hearing on this matter. Any public hearing? Right, hearing none. Mr. White.
Madam Mayor, the recommendation of the Finance Committee is to approve, and I so move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. White, seconded by Mr. Luna. Discussion by council. Discussion by council. All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Announcement of public hearing to be held Monday, August 27th, 2018 at 6 p.m. in City Council Chambers, 2101 O'Neill Avenue, Cheyenne, Wyoming, to determine whether compliance of annexation conditions required by Wyoming Statute Section 15-1-402 exists for the south half, east half, Tract 1 Skyline tracts, and that portion of Brimmer Road right-of-way adjacent to said south half, east half of Tract 1, Laramie County, Wyoming, situated in southeast quarter, Section 18, Township 14 North, Range 66 West of the 6 p.m., County of Laramie, State of Wyoming, located northwest of the intersection of Story Boulevard and Powder House Road. Other business.
Thank you. Is there any other business to come before us from the public? Come on down, sir. Please introduce yourself. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Earl Janak. I've got some notes here. I want to follow my notes, so I'll do okay. Respectfully, I'd like to ask permission to share some observations that have affected my life.
Please go ahead.
Once again, my name is Earl Janak. I've been a resident of Cheyenne for almost 20 years. I arrived up here in 2000 with my infant son. I'm a disabled vet. I'm a single dad, and my son's now 20 years old, and he has autism. And I am also provisionally autistic. For the last 17 years, I have complied with the ordinance 5.36.030 and instructions from the city attorney to get a noise permit in order to be a street musician. About a year and a half ago, I was made aware when I applied for my noise permit that there had been some changes to the ordinance that pertain to me, and I wanted to share the adverse effects that those have had on me and my ability to be a street performer, and also some incidences that have occurred in the last, in the last probably about 6 years since Art Cheyenne has arrived on the scene and had something to do with the downtown area. May I continue?
Please.
Okay. Specifically, the ordinance was changed so that there was part of it crossed out. I'm assuming that all of you know what I'm talking about. Is that
The performing, we do, but not probably specifically that particular portion
It's
of it.
the public addresses, entertainment, and advertising on the street. The lines that were crossed out were state the location for and the time when such address, entertainment, or advertising is to be given and obtain a written permit from the mayor. When I first arrived, I did both of those things and continued doing those things. And still I'm doing those things because that's what's required of me right now. I currently have one place that I play in front of is Marv's Pawn Shop. With their permission, I have their letter of permission. Also, a line is crossed out through a section that says, part of the section, and I'll identify the section. It says, persons shall obtain the consent of the owner or manager or occupant of the premises in front of or adjoining the place such persons propose to give such public address, entertainment, or advertising. The part that was crossed out is or occupant and or adjoining. Specifically, the part that says or occupant has made it more difficult for me to get permission to be a street musician in various locations around town, around the downtown area. So I'm limited to playing as a part of the Tuesday farmers market at JCPenney's and as part of the Saturday's farmers market on 15th Street, where I've paid my admission fee and do that. And the one place that I've been able to get is Marv's Pawn Shop. Okay. So because it says owner of the building or manager of the building, I'm not really familiar with how to get that information. I used to be able to just go in the storefront and ask permission from whoever was in there. So that's what I'm saying. It's made it a little more difficult. Now, some specific events that have occurred. I used to play in the Depot Plaza when the Saturday. I'm going to get a drink of water. Thanks. I used to play in the Depot Plaza when the farmers market was there on Saturday mornings. When Art Cheyenne arrived on the scene, sometime after that, they placed a piano in the one spot that I played on without talking to me. I had submitted to the city's request of writing a letter of intent, and that letter of intent was totally ignored by everybody that was involved in the decision making to allow Art Cheyenne to place a piano in that space. As a result of the piano being in that space, I had to reach out, and I made an agreement with Bill Lundstrom, who's the executive director, and he said that they would cover it up, and I would be allowed still to play in that location. But that's in an ideal situation. People would steal the tarp. People would come up and remove the tarp and start playing while I'm playing there. And so there was some conflicts. One outstanding conflict was when a group of homeless, transient, drunk people came up and started playing the piano. He was really good, by the way, and started hassling me about being there. And I was like, I've got permission to be here. The piano's supposed to be covered. Can you please stop playing? And I had to endure that stressful situation. So that was something that I had to go through that I shouldn't have had to go through. Additionally, my personal viewpoint of the whole piano program is that you guys should not give any more money to it because it's throwing good money after bad money. The pianos stay out in all kinds of weather, and currently there's no piano on the depot. The piano that was in front of the library just got removed because it was vandalized and it had been unplayable for some time. I may be a little jaded, but it's still an honest opinion. Additionally, this year, since my son has gotten older, I had decided to stretch my comfort zone and take part in the summer Frontier Days and the melodrama. I participated in the melodrama as an oleo performer and had lots and lots of fun. As part of that, I got permission to play in front of the Atlas as a street performer. In addition to stretching out my comfort zone, I got back in touch with Marv's Place. I had maintained a relationship with them over the last 20 years, approximately 20 years. and I confirmed with them that I had intended to play in front of their store over the summertime, and did indeed do that. Now, a conflict arose when the owner of Ernie November's walked by me on the second Friday of. Does anybody want to see this? Because this is specific. Does anybody need to see that?
I think you will pass it down.
He had scheduled an event in front of his store, and on the second week of that, Friday the 13th, he walked by me and inappropriately flipped me off. So I was like, "Did you really flip me off?" And then he commenced to use some vile and vulgar language in addressing me about his concern that I was competing with him. Now, I'm a street musician. I do this naturally, organically, of my own volition. He hired his street performers. It's apples and oranges, two completely different things going on. I still played. I played the next couple of weekends where he turned the volume up on the amplifier that he was using, and that's another difference. I don't use an amplifier. He did have it amplified, and probably, in my opinion, should have had a noise permit similar to the one that I'd had for the last 17 years. But more applicable in his case, since he was actually being amplified. So my concern is, once again, with Arts Cheyenne. They have the little logo down on here. Keith Combs is a member of the board of directors of Arts Cheyenne, and he's using Arts Cheyenne logo, and I don't know for sure if it's his money to pay these performers and promote his own business. And in my opinion, I may be wrong, that's a conflict of interest that might want to be investigated. Additionally, I'm a member of the Cheyenne Guitar Society, and last year at the 6th Annual Cheyenne Arts Festival, they have their logo on here and were sponsors. So I asked them what their relationship was with Cheyenne Arts Festival, and they let me know that the 7th Annual Cheyenne Arts Festival is not going to happen this year. Did any of you guys know that already? So whatever's going on, something's going on with Arts Cheyenne, whether it's improper or not. A representative of their organization using vile and vulgar language to address me instead of working to resolve a conflict in a positive fashion, which I thought would have been more beneficial to everybody. Finally, this last week, I found out that Richard Johnson was working with a guy named Anthony Vibbard to change this ordinance back in December of 16. And I found the article that pertains to that. And I understand the whole idea of freedom of speech because I've been exercising my freedom of speech for about 30 years now as a street musician. And I am basically on their side as far as letting people sing Christmas carols and being street performers. But with something happened on Saturday, he approached me and used some threatening language while I was performing at the Saturday farmers market when I thought that was unacceptable and inappropriate, and I told him so, and he said he didn't care. He only has 5 weeks or 5 months. I'm not sure what he says of his time as city council left. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Who said that?
Richard Johnson.
Okay. And what did he say?
I'm not going to say that he said it specifically. It's what I heard. Was something to the effect of, why are you playing in front of Marv's? Why are you competing with Ernie November's? Why did you call the cops on this other musician who was playing at Ernie's? I have another. This guy right here was playing last Friday, and as you can see on this one, it's only Ernie November's, no Arts Cheyenne logo. If anybody wants to see that. So if he's gonna represent Arts Cheyenne, anyways, another stressful situation that I didn't need to go through, courtesy of Richard Johnson, city council person. Does everybody get the point I'm trying to make?
I believe so. And I think that probably what we can do, and I would maybe talk to council and see if there aren't a couple of us that could get together, take a look at the ordinance, maybe meet again with you individually, find a time that works for you to meet with us, and
Like that?
make sure that the ordinance that we have does allow for street performers. At least speaking for myself, I think that that's what makes Cheyenne a vibrant community, and we want to make sure that there's fairness and equity, essentially, if you will, with the events going on. So, if it would be all right with you, we would certainly like to get together and look specifically at that ordinance and changes. You did mention with as far as getting permission from the owner. I think that we've all realized up here on the dais that sometimes it's pretty hard to get in touch with the owner of some of our downtown properties that may or may not live in Wyoming or the United States, for that fact. So I think that we should certainly take a look at this for you.
In closing, if I may, I would like to thank you all very much for letting me speak. I would like to reinforce the idea that I have, since I've been here, trying to build community through my presence in the downtown by bringing culture and vibrancy and inclusion. I know how, in a time-honored tradition, how other street musicians are supposed to treat each other with courtesy and respect, and I'm all for that. If other performers want to play in the downtown area, there might be a consideration of non-amplification so that everybody can be heard. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking your time to speak with us tonight. Any further questions for Mr. Janik? All right. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind, we'll make sure that we get your contact information and follow back up with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any further discussion by the public?
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I just have a...
Can you please state your name?
My name is Joe Doherty. I live at 225 Hobbs Avenue. I have a comment and an observation that I'd like to make. My comment would be that the observation would be that this body tonight enacted some 15 pieces of legislation on the consent agenda. My second comment would be that 2 of those pieces of legislation dealt with a piece of historic property at the corner of 17th and Cary Avenue that will utilize some $9 million in public funds. And because of your rules that you chose to enact and your lack of willingness to open that up for public discussion, you'll proceed with that action without the benefit of having had public discussion at this hearing tonight. And I personally feel that is inappropriate and represents this body in a poor manner. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions?
Madam Mayor, one
Mr.
question,
Shaner?
Mr. Doherty, if you don't mind. Through you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Doherty, did you request anybody on council by chance to pull it off consent?
I did speak with Mr. Cook and Mayor Orr via email today about this very matter.
And you specifically requested to pull it off consent?
I did not make that specific request. I said this can't be right because I just didn't think in my own mind that you would actually move forward with $9 million worth of action on 2 agenda items without consent, without taking it off the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Correct. And to follow up, Mr. Shaner, I did respond to Mr. Doherty today to let him know the process that it would take a member of council and then a follow-up by two others regarding the consent agenda process. Other discussion by the public? Other discussion by the public? Okay, hold on just a minute. Okay, hearing none, discussion by or issues from council. Anything from the council?
Our issues, or do you want
No, I don't want your issues. I was just thinking wrong word. I'm trying to breathe. I'm glad the chief is here. With that, we have a couple new staff members, and so Lisa Pafford, if you wouldn't mind introducing our new staff member that's with us here, and then Sylvia, I'll have you introduce our new staff attorney.
Our new staff planner is Scott Roberts. He's joined us on Friday via Iowa, New York.
Very good. Well, welcome to Cheyenne. We're very glad to have you on board. Thank you. Sylvia.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to introduce way over in the corner where he thought he'd be hidden, Joe Chenchar. He is our new assistant city attorney, and he will be serving primarily as our city prosecutor. We lured him away from the state. I am so pleased. And Joe was a classmate of Logan Sharp's, and that is a very high recommendation indeed. And by the way, we noticed, because today is the day that Vicky's crew put all the lights in, that suddenly the place was much brighter with Joe coming to work here. So I'm sure it's not coincidental. Thank you for joining us, Joe.
All right. Thank you very much. Will there be no further business to come?
Madam
Oh,
Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shaner.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm certainly always willing to take something off consent if a constituent asks me. I've never known a colleague not to be the same. And so I would just encourage people in the public, if procedurally something ends up on consent agenda that you wanted to talk about, make sure to reach out to a councilman and specifically ask that it be taken off consent. And I've never seen it not taken off consent, for the record.
Right.
In response to that,
Mr.
Mayor,
Cook.
if I may, yes, a specific request wasn't made, Councilman Shaner, and quite frankly, the way I look at this is ample opportunity for public comment has been had over the last several months on this specific issue. And that particular member of the public has spoken to us many times in the public comment period. So I certainly feel like ample opportunity has been given to discuss this matter in public discussion in a variety of forums.
Thank you. Any other further comments? No issues. Comments.
Madam Mayor.
By council. Mr. White.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out and thanks to all the staff who worked so hard during Cheyenne Frontier Days. We have not met since then. I saw Jason Sanchez and Steve McDonald at 4 o'clock in the morning at the pancake breakfast. All the sanitation crews, police, fire, everybody, as usual, every year puts their heart and soul into working so hard to put on a great event. And just wanted to thank staff.
Well noted. Any other comments? Any other comments? All right. Hearing nothing further, we are adjourned.